Okay, another video here with Eric by special request. Somebody was asking about how to use the Kline's etymological dictionary. So we got a picture of it here along with the Stone's Tanakh that Eric uses. And we were also discussing earlier Hosea 4:6, where we were talking about the 1,000-year reign and who's going to be qualified. There's going to be kings, there's going to be priests, there's going to be people just don't really know what's going on, then it's going to be somebody's duty to teach them. And Hosea 4:6 actually gives you the qualifications to be a priest. And it said if you're not keeping Torah, you're disqualified. So let's get into this, Eric.
It says, my people has been eliminated for lack of knowledge. For you have spurned knowledge, and I will spurn you from serving me. And as you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I too will forget your children. So the point is, it's this balanced scales. It's a picture of Mishpat. The same attitude that we have towards Yahuwah's instructions of his Torah is what's going to happen to us. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. With the measure you use, it'll be measured to you. We had a little video earlier, Mishpat, the balancing of scales. Mem Shin Pei Tet. Pei Tet means zero level balance. Nobody has any advantage. It's perfectly balanced scales, Pei Tet. It's coming to a stalemate, like you're playing a game of chess and you both have one king left and neither one can pin each other to get a checkmate. So it's a stalemate game. So that's what Shin Pei Tet is the word shofet, which is judge. Shofetim is judges. Mishpat is this word that's translated as right ruling or justice. It's balanced scales of equity, of value, of what you do is going to come back. We just talked about that in the video. So the thing is, if he says, I gave you knowledge, but if you say, I don't want to know about this, then you are going to, you might say, wear or endure or have handed to you the exact attitude that you have expressed about Yahuwah's own personal words. Once you see this concept in the Scripture, you'll find it hundreds of places, embedded all through Scripture. The attitude that we project towards the words of Yahweh in his Torah, his instructions, is what ends up being manifest in our lives, both as individuals and as nations. This is very serious stuff.
Indeed.
So, I will spurn you from serving me if you turn your back. Spurn, if you turn your back on knowledge. So, where do you find knowledge? My parents had an encyclopedia set called the Book of Knowledge. Comprehensive etymological dictionary sounds like a book of knowledge. So we talked earlier about 2 Kings 17. And it says, we mentioned this verse, 15. They rejected his decrees and his covenant that he sealed with their forefathers, and his warnings that he had warned about them, and they went after the worthless and became worthless. Again, that word for worthless is not the word for idol, it's bet lamed, which means to come to nothing. And the idols are nothings. You go after nothings and you become nothing. You go after the vain, the empty, the worthless, you become vain, empty, worthless, and your life becomes of no value. So how do you turn that around? How do you make your life worthwhile? How do you make your time here on this planet worth something? You go after that which is worth everything, which is these words, which is understanding these words. Not just accumulating insight of various doctrines. I mean, who knows whether the doctrines of the various Protestant churches, there's over 40,000 Protestant denominations. Maybe there's 80,000. The point is, who's to say which one's right? Or maybe it's not the Protestants at all. Maybe it's actually the Catholics or the Orthodox, or maybe it's some other. The only way to know is to go back at these words.
The Scripture says to mark those who cause divisions. They better start marking.
There's all kinds of divisions. But how do you find that which is simply it? Simply is. Simply what he says. So we have this little thing. what did Yahweh say, and what did he mean? He did not speak in English. English didn't even exist as a language such that we would recognize it until just a few hundred years ago. It was in 1611, early 1600s, that the King James Bible was printed in English. And they actually used the King James Bible to teach people English. Yep. That was the textbook because it was really the first thing printed in the English language, and it brought a commonality of,
a lot of kids,
lingua franca, common tongue.
That's how a lot of kids learn to read.
With the Bible. And it wasn't because it was the special book, it was pretty much the only book.
Yeah.
Gutenberg's printing press cranked out the English Bible. Okay, so anyway, the point is here, if we go back and look at this that he warned them about, I underline them here, you'll notice there's two different ways to spell the word warning. I don't know if you can read that here. Ayin Dalet Vav Tav Yod Vav. Ayin Dalet Vav Tav Yod Vav. And then that he warned them about is Hey Ayin Yod Dalet. So you may not recognize these letters, but I'm going to show you how to use the dictionary. I keep talking about using the red dictionary. Well, it's not just looking at the meaning of the word in the dictionary. That's the easy way, the common way. Everybody knows how to use a dictionary. You look up a word, it tells you how to spell it and what it means. But there's this whole other way of using the dictionary. And so we're going to focus in on this word that's translated warning. That other video we did, last call, it's like, whoa, warning. The concept is that you better pay attention, because if you have any interest, something's about to come to an end. An opportunity is about to become passé, past tense, because a new condition's about to appear. And so you're talking about the hands of time on the clock of destiny, or the clock of, how do you phrase it?
Oh, the world's, they call it their clock, the doomsday clock.
The doomsday clock.
Yeah.
Is it possible to stop those hands of time moving? We just read in 2 Kings that Yahweh
like that
said,
song, turn back the hands of time.
if you could
Teshuvah, the hands of time.
how do you stop the hands of time, or turn them back, or how do you get more time? Yahweh said, if you do what I said, he will change the weather, he will change the disposition of wild animals, he will change the hearts of rulers, he will change all kinds of things if we just listen to what he said. And yet, if nobody is telling us what he said, because they're making up doctrines or they're translating words haphazardly, we're at the mercy of those we trust. The point is, why would the same word for warning be spelled Ayin Dalet Vav Tav Yod Vav and Hey Ayin Yod Dalet? Both of them are translated as warning. Well, the common link here is Ayin and Dalet. I've said before that the letters Vav and Yod, in the Paleo-Hebrew, that's the letter Vav, and that's the letter Yod. That these two you can drop in between any other letters, and they almost act like wildcards. So here you see Ayin and Dalet and Ayin Yod Dalet. And they basically mean the same thing. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of different pages here in the dictionary and show you how to use the dictionary to look up this word for warning and the word for using Ayin Dalet. Where the word Ayin Dalet really comes to bear is in Leviticus 23. It says, Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, Yahweh's appointed festivals that you are to designate as holy convocations. These are my appointed festivals. That's verses 1 and 2 of Leviticus 23. So you look over here at verses 1 and 2, and it says, Mem Vav Ayin Dalet Yod, Moedi. Moedi. And here it is. So it's the word for my appointed festivals. Well, with the Yod is the suffix. That makes it personal, meaning my. And Mem is the object or a place. And so we have Vav Ayin Dalet. But you have to know the prefixes and suffixes to know that I can take this word with 5 letters, Mem, Vav, Ayin, Dalet, Yod, And I can say, well, ayin dalet's the root word. Vav is one of those wild cards. Mem is a prefix and yod is a suffix. Well, how do you know that? By using the dictionary and look at it. And we're going to go through, this might take at least a half an hour, but we're going to go through probably a dozen, maybe more, pages showing you how to look at the root word spelled ayin dalet with all the various derivatives of the spelling of that word as a way to show you how to use the dictionary. So, we're going to start off with just looking at the word. Well, let's start with the word moed. Mem, vav, ayin, dalet. So this is what you do. You find the verse in English. Hey, we're talking about the festivals. But the same word festival and appointed time is moed. And that's Leviticus 23, so I see it in English, and I look over here in Hebrew, and if I have an interlinear, then I can figure out that that is the word. Mem, vav, ayin, dalet, yod. This is for readers of the English. So, mem is around the middle. So I'm going to open up around the middle. Hey, there's mem. Now, in Hebrew, it's read right to left. So if I'm at mem tav, then I know that mem ayin is going to my left. So there's mem resh, mem samik. But I know that ayin is after samik. So I have to go to the next page this way.
So you're just using the headings at the top in the corners like a regular dictionary.
But I have to know the alphabetic.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
Here, Nam Yahweh literally means thus saith Yahweh, or the word of Yahweh, or Yahweh has declared this as being
That's
what
stamp.
it is. That's like this seal, this signet ring stamp of the decree of the emperor. And here's Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Zadi, Kuf, Resh, Shin, Tav. Back to Aleph. So if I was at Mem Tav and I want to find Mem Ayin, and I find Mem Kuf, Mem Zadi, oh, there's Mem Ayin. If I hit Mem Samek or Mem Nun, I know I got to go back the other way. So you could see this like hands on a clock, and you're just trying to, if you know the alphabetic sequence, then you know where you are. So I'm looking for Mem Vav Ayin Dalet. Well, see, if I look here, this says Mem Ayin Dalet Nun, but I'm looking for Mem Vav Ayin Dalet. So if I'm at Mem Ayin, I want to go back further. We'll get to that one in a moment. But now I'm going to, here's Mem Kaf, Mem Yod. See, I'm swinging all the way back here to Mem Ayin, the sixth letter. Mem Het, Mem Vav Zayin, Mem Vav Nun. That means I gotta turn the page. Here you go. Mem Vav Samik. So it's got it there. Mem Vav Ayin Dalet. Okay, so now, even though I'm writing in Paleo, this is the modern letters. Mem Vav Ayin Dalet. Mem Vav Ayin Dalet. Well, I'm looking at Mem Vav Ayin Dalet Yod. So Yod is after Tet, and I come down. Guess what? There is no Mem Vav Ayin Dalet Yod. Why not? Because Yod's the suffix. And just like if you look under the English dictionary for the word run, they may not have running, and that's a bad example. Fishing. It's still the same thing, but they don't necessarily have, it's another bad example. Paint, painted, painting, will paint. I mean, it's just verb tenses, past, present, future. So what I'm saying is that you have to get to know the language. I'm going to tell you that the yod is a suffix that means my, or personal, moedi. The interesting thing is that this is translated festivals. And if you learn a little bit the language, there's two plural suffixes. It's called masculine and feminine. One is yod mem, that's the feminine. The other one is vav tav. Excuse me, yod mem is the masculine. Vav tav is the feminine. But the point about that is that this doesn't have the mem. It's mem vav ayin dalet yod, but it's translated festivals as if it was plural. There's something wrong. That ends with the yod. So if I look here, mem vav ayin dalet, it says the appointed place of a soldier, rank. So if you're a lieutenant or a captain or a private or a general, well, what's that got to do with appointed festivals if it's the rank of a soldier? Let's look some more. appointed time or festival. Oh, there it is. But then you could say, why in the world would Mem, Vav, Ayin, Dalet be the appointed place or rank of a soldier and the appointed festival or place of meeting? A sign or a signal. Well, if you have a traffic light down at the intersection, that's a moed. A traffic light is an appointed signal. A temple. But here, Mem, Vav, Ayin, Dalet, forewarned and cautioned. Directed. Well, the traffic light directs the traffic, but forewarned and cautioned? Well, like the video we did last call with the yellow blinking light. It's like, oh, hey, pay attention. So it has to do with forewarning of what? Well, there's a dangerous intersection coming up. There's some road work happening. What I'm trying to show you is as we investigate this word spelled Ayin Dalet, you'll see all kinds of things that are built into this word. And the way to find out what's in this word is by taking the other letters that are prefixes and suffixes and adding them to the word, and then sticking a yod and a vav in between the ayin and the dalet, or between the prefix and the ayin, or after the dalet before the other suffix. It might sound like a lot of juggling, but it's really not. It's not that hard. So here, mem vav ayin dalet vav nun. Moedon is a meeting place. Moedoni, now they have as a suffix, vav nun yod, pertaining to a club. So as you go through this, you'll see, okay, we did a list once before, the letters that are prefixes and suffixes. So I'm going to go through these and show you here in this video of the dictionary. Aleph can be used as a prefix, so can bet. Also hey and vav. Then yod, kaf, lamed, mem, and nun. Those can all be prefix letters. And sheen and tav. And sometimes a dalet. That's more of an Aramaic thing. As the suffix letters, meaning if they're at the end of the word, they're tense of the verb, but they don't necessarily change the meaning of the word. You can put aleph as a suffix. Hey, that's the feminine suffix. Vav is the masculine suffix. Yod is the first person suffix. Kaf means you. That's the second person suffix. Mem, well, if it's yod mem, that's the masculine plural. Nun, that's basically engaged in the action, the one who's doing it, as a suffix. And then you have tav as a suffix, which basically kind of puts it into a tense of past or future. That's kind of a lot. I made a list. We could talk about that later. My point is, if you know the prefixes and suffixes, so I can look at this word nam as just meaning thus saith, but I could say, well, that's nun as a prefix, meaning that he imparts, and aleph mem is a mother, a metropolis. It's the word that means if, or on a certain condition, so he's imposing a certain condition. He's nooning the aleph mem. What condition? He's saying these are the things that stipulate the condition. So the whole reason for learning this language is so that when we meet those conditions, something will happen. Which is exactly what we talked about in the last video, 2 Kings 17. When we do what he said, but then he said in verse 40, he says, but they're not listening. You guys wouldn't listen. I kept telling you over and over, repeatedly and forcefully, that's the word ayin vav dalet that we'll get to in a minute. I kept telling you, your ancestors wouldn't listen, and you guys won't listen, and even your children's children aren't listening. But we're listening. We're doing this video so that you can listen if you want to hear. And if you don't want to hear, goodbye. So here, we look at the word mem vav ayin dalet. And now, if I know that mem is a prefix letter, then I can look to the root of the word, which is ayin dalet. And it has something to do with a festival sacrifice, an appointed time, an appointed place, the rank of a soldier, or something that we're forewarned and cautioned about. So, if I'm at mem, which is kind of sort of the middle of the alphabet, there's 22 letters, right? Kaf and Lamed would be 11 and 12, mem is 13. So if I want to just look at ayin, I'm going to go forward a few more letters that direction. So now I'm going to look at ayin dalet. Just so you know, this was on page 327. So if I look at ayin dalet, I'm at page 466. Now I've got ayin vav, so I'm going to back up. Here's ayin vav dalet, and we'll look at that in a moment. But Ayin dalet. Dalet comes before the vav by 2 letters. So I'm going to go back to another page, 464. Here's ayin dalet. In fact, here's ayin dalet. So here's the root word ayin dalet. It means to, unto, even to, until, or while. Eternity or perpetuity. Like forever and ever. That word and ever is ed. Forever is leolam. And ever is va'ed. But if it means until, would you say forever and until? No, you say forever and ever. So the word ayin dalet can mean until or while, and also eternity, but it also means booty. What's booty? Booty is something that can be taken away or torn away or removed. Booty is something that a thief would want to steal. It also means witness and testimony, menstruation. Count or reckon is ayin dalet dalet. So you take the second letter and you make it the third letter. So you double the 2 letters. That's another way that the spelling of words works. Ayin dalet hey, that's a feminine suffix. It means to ornament. He decked himself with ornaments, bedecked and bejeweled. He bejeweled himself with something that was able to be stolen away. Ayin dalet hey, to pass by, suddenly seized upon, touched. Ayin dalet hey is also assembly or congregation, a group assembled together by appointment. Hey, wait a minute. These Moedim are 7 festivals. It's a group that Yahweh assembled together by appointment as a certain meeting place. So here ayin dalet hey with the feminine suffix is a derivative of mem vav ayin dalet. Ayin dalet vav dalet, encouragement. Ayin dalet hey, witness, testimony. Adorned, bedecked, bejeweled. Conception, pregnancy. A pregnant woman is adorned. Ayin dalet vav tav, testimony. Well, now we've taken the masculine suffix and added a tav, which is the plural, in the feminine. It jumps around. You can't take this language and lock it in and think you have, it's like in English, I before E, except after C, except sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I was in 6th grade and I lost the spelling bee. I was like one of the last 3 people because I had the word for, and then I was remembering I before E, except after C, except sometimes. I forgot that part, except sometimes. Forget those stupid rules. People come up with rules and you think you're safe, and you're not safe. Take the warning. Don't trust these stupid rules we've been handed. Trust these rules in the Torah. Ayin dalet yod, ornament, jewel. And it means choice, best. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. This ends with ayin dalet yod. Mem vav ayin dalet yod. Ayin dalet yod is choice best. And I said that the yod was the personal, possessive suffix. So my choice best, ornament. Well, who's speaking? Yahweh's speaking. He says these are my appointed festivals. So the appointed festivals of Yahweh are his choice best ornamentation by which he has bejeweled himself, but he also made it possible to be stolen away, torn away and removed. Why would he do that? He gave us his choice best treasure by which he adorned himself. And then he made it so that thieves, pillagers, could come in and steal it away and remove it if we turn to disregard it and care nothing for it.
Use it or lose it.
If we add a noon, ayin dalet yod noon, voluptuous and luxurious. And then if you look at ayin dalet, take out the yod and look at ayin dalet noon, Eden, like the Garden of Eden, paradise. Eden, ayin dalet noon, pleasure, delight, luxury, to refine, make tender, to make delicate. But it also means to do unwillingly. What does doing something unwillingly have to do with refine, make tender, delicate, luxurious? Wait a minute, ayin dalet noon also means time or period. It also means hitherto, which is a period in time up until now. Ayin dalet noon hey, delight or pleasure. So the reason it was called the Garden of Eden, it was a time before now where they were just dropped into a place of absolute delight and luxury. Eden, it's where we get the word in English, hedon, hedonism. Hedonist is someone who's into pleasure and luxury and delight. Does that mean it's a bad thing? No, it's not a bad thing. That's just what it means. So what I'm saying is that by the use of this dictionary, I'm looking at the word ayin dalet, and I'm seeing ayin dalet dalet, to count or reckon. To count what? A passage of time. Well, that's like the word that means until, or while, or a progression in time, up until eternity. So as you're getting this feeling, then you look at something, well, let's drop a yod or a vav in between. So this is ayin dalet. So let's look at ayin vav dalet. Next page. Ayin vav dalet. To return, to repeat, to do again. He repeated, he warned. Hey, that's the same word as we had before for warning. We're from mem vav ayin dalet, and now this is, instead of mem vav ayin dalet, now we're at ayin vav dalet. We took the vav out instead of between the mem and the ayin, and we're dropping one in between the ayin and the dalet. I'm trying to prove that you can use vavs and yods as wildcards. Repeated, affirmed solemnly, warned, forcefully, said over and over, repeatedly and forcefully, strengthened, encouraged. There's that word encouraged that we bumped into. When you say something again and again, repeatedly and forcefully, it's the same thing as encouraging. Come on, you can do it. It's not that hard. It's easy. We can get back on track. The entire nation of Israel can get back into this game, and we can turn back the hands of time from the clock of ultimate destiny. What do you call it? The
Doomsday.
Doomsday clock. Those hands do not have to progress the way they think. If we turn our hearts to Yahweh's stuff, those hands can stop. They can move back. Yahweh's in control of the hands of that clock.
That's right.
Ayin vav dalet, duration, continuance, continually, still, yet, already. It's also the word for lute. It's a musical instrument. Restored, relieved, encouraged, helped, supported. Ayin vav dalet. But here it was used, warning. Well, wait a minute. Is it an encouragement or is it a warning? There's another verse where he says, there is no other Elohim. Ein od zulti. Od, ayin vav dalet, is simply translated as, there is no other. Other? It's a way of saying, I keep telling you guys the same story. Well, we've learned that, we have a better covenant. We have a new covenant. We have a better covenant because the old covenant was no good. Wait a minute. This word means choice, best, treasure, jewel, ornamentation, adornment, again and again, repeatedly, forcefully. There isn't anything any better. Well, then what do we think is better about a new covenant? What did Paul mean by that? Well, I don't know what Paul meant by that. What does the church mean by that? Is it diminishing Nam Yahuwah, the most pure, perfect word from the emperor himself who invented and gave all this stuff to his very own people? Makes you wonder. Ayin vav hey. Well, they dropped the dalet and add a hey. I'm just trying to show you. If I'm looking, this is one of the uses of the dictionary, page 466. If I'm looking at ayin vav dalet, ayin vav dalet, ayin vav dalet, dalet vav tav, encouragement, and I can then look at what do the other letters do. Ayin vav dalet, then add a pay. It means leftover, surplus. Ayin vav hey. So instead of a dalet, it's now the hey, and it means bend or twist, distortion, ruin, sin, perversion, iniquity, guilt, punishment, convulsion. That's ayin vav vav tav. If we lose the dalet, we get complete distortion and ruin. So now I can think, well, what's the difference between a dalet and a hey, or the dalet and a vav, or what happens when you take the dalet out of the spelling of a word? And because I was brought up in the Christian mind, I know Yeshua said, I am the door. Well, the dalet's a door. So I can sit here and say, well, wait a minute. If I take the letter ayin as being an eyeball, that means understanding and weigh, balance, and carefully measure, then ayin dalet is understand that Yeshua claimed to be the door. What do you do with that? Well, you take off the door and you end up with distortion and ruin. Well, I can philosophize about that subjectively, on my own. If anybody else wants to believe it or not, that's up to them. But let's look at ayin yod dalet. So here's, turn the page, ayin vav resh, ayin tet resh. I know yod's after tet. So I look here, here's ayin yod nun, ayin yod, heap of ruins, ayin yod dalet. Idolatrous festival, that which returns every year. Remember, ayin vav dalet meant to repeat, forcefully, come back around. Well, why should ayin yod dalet mean idolatrous festival? Well, if we go back here to 2 Kings, we saw that, hey, ayin yod dalet men he had warned about. If I go back to mem, instead of mem vav ayin dalet, I'm going to look at mem yod ayin dalet, just to see what that does. Putting in that wild card of a yod. Page 342. Mem yod ayin. Down here, page 343. Mem yod ayin dalet. Designated, intended, envisaged. Designated. It's been appointed. Intended. These 22 letters that Yahweh established as being the omad, the standing pillars of his kingdom, his words which endure forever, he set everything up as something designated, intended in his vision. Okay, this is mem yod ayin dalet. Now I'm going to look at mem ayin yod dalet. So go look a little further. Mem. Once you start spinning through here, you'll start to get the way the dictionary works. Mem ayin yod is heap of stones or ruin, bowels or intestines. Mem ayin yod dalet hey, slipping, tottering, or stumbling. He warned us that if we were doing idolatrous festivals, it was the place of slipping and falling. There's the connection. I'm going to take the last suffix, the tav, and I'm going to look at tav ayin dalet, just to see what that does. Page 710. To documentate. He documented. Tav ayin hey, to stray wander. Remember, ayin hey instead of ayin dalet meant to go crazy and spin out and get convoluted. So you can see that the tav is a prefix letter. Tav ayin vav dalet hey, testimony, to attest, certificate, document, mission, and purpose. Tav ayin vav dalet yod, documentary. Tav ayin vav dalet tav yod, pertaining to an attestation, testifying, certifying, having a mission or having a purpose. Having a mission or having a purpose. Tav ayin dalet. Well, if the Moedim are the place of the ayin dalet, it's not just a festival. It's Yahweh's mission and purpose for us to be his people, his witnesses, and synchronized as a soldier at his designated position, because the soldier is of a certain trustworthy rank. The more trustworthy, the more learned, the more fit you are to the mission, you'll have a higher rank as a soldier. That's what this is about. You started off talking about, I got to stand up for a moment, in the book of Hosea, that he's going to have his people be, as you put it, the kings and priests during this, what we call the Millennium reign, right? The Messianic era. If we don't even know what his mission and purpose is, if we have no regard of his appointed time, his appointed place, or the appointed factors, which are his choice best jewels of personal ornamentation, and yet we claim, oh, God is God, he is my Lord, and I love him, but yet we know nothing of his preference, are we fooling ourselves? I'm not doubting anyone's expression of their own heart, of their endearment to the God they believe in and the God they love. But what I'm saying is, Yahuwah, the Elohim of Israel, gave his people certain clear instructions, and part of those instructions are to watch, keep, and guard these Moedim. And if you don't know what the word Moedim is, because you think they're Jewish holidays, you've completely missed his heart, because these are his choice, best treasures by which he has ornamented himself and his people. As we'll see shortly, another meaning of these words of the derivative means to be betrothed. Now the word kadoshi means to be betrothed, and so does ayin resh kaf, Eric means to be betrothed, but so does ayin vav dalet, hey, mean one who is betrothed. So he gave the moedim, as you might say, betrothal gifts to his woman, his bride, so that she could be dressed up in the fine raiment of the attire, robes of righteousness, that are his choice preference. It's his design. And we'll see the word designed is also one of the meanings of these words. So if we look back on here again, to document and testify, certify, having a purpose, ayin tav dalet, if we want to look at that one, the ayin tav is a little bit different in that we've dropped the tav in, but you'll find that sometimes you can drop the tav in between other letters. It means to be ready or prepared, to make ready. Consider, he prepared himself. That's the same as the word ayin resh kaf, as in erectology. And the reason I bring this out is because ayin tav means time. If you could turn back the hands of time or stop the hands of time, ayin tav hey means now at present. So in Daniel 12:4, it's until the time is spelled ayin dalet hyphenated with ayin tav. So these two letters, these two words, are very closely associated. Ayin dalet and ayin tav. Ayin dalet means until, or it's a period of time enduring forever, again and again, repeatedly, forcefully. Get ready, this is it. And then ayin tav is simply the word time. Ayin tav hey means right now, this time. And then when you say ayin tav dalet, it means to be ready or prepared. Well, the whole idea in the book of Revelation is talking about the bride who has prepared herself. And it talks about the New Jerusalem coming down out of heaven as a bride who has adorned. So he's adorning that, and we're supposed to be getting ready and adorning ourselves. And then there's the picture of the bridesmaids and whether they're prepared or not. And what I'm saying, these are all questions having to do with the words spelled ayin dalet and ayin tav. And tav can be dropped in as a wild card, similar to a vav and a yod. It's not always just a prefix or a suffix or a regular letter. Tav is kind of a special different letter, as is the aleph. The other consonants between bet and sheen are regarded a little differently. So if you look at ayin tav vav dalet, ready, prepared, making ready, prepared, well, the whole idea of these festivals they are the appointed time and the appointed place for Yahweh meeting with his people, where he has prepared to meet with us, and that we're supposed to prepare, take the week off of work for the week of Sukkot. Take the week off of work if you can. Not commanded, it was just the first day and last day, but the week of unleavened bread. At least you should prepare to have all the leaven out of your house for that week coming up here in the spring in March or April. What I'm saying is that to study just this word, ayin dalet, and looking into the dictionary, pulls in all these other issues about what it means to be Yahuwah's betrothed people. Okay, so let's look at something else. Mem ayin yod dalet. We might have already looked at that, but it means to slip and fall. Mem ayin vav dalet. Okay, we're going to go back a page. Mem ayin vav dalet. Slipping, tottering, stumbling, and encouraging. Mem vav ayin dalet dalet. So here I'm trying to prove to you that if I could take out the vav and replace it with the yod, it's exactly the same word. Slipping, tottering, and stumbling. And it'll bring you to ruin. Mem vav ayin dalet, mem ayin vav dalet dalet is encouraged. Mem ayin dalet. Get rid of the yod and the vav. Mem ayin dalet. Slip, totter, stumble, falling. There's the proof that mem ayin dalet, mem ayin yod dalet, mem ayin vav dalet, all the same thing, just different verb tenses. Yods and vavs, put them in, take them out. They're just wild cards. Now, mem yod ayin dalet. So there's mem lamed. I know I got to go back a couple letters. Mem yod sheen. Mem yod lamed. So I got to go back. Mem yod ayin dalet. There. Designated, intended, envisaged. Who designated? Yahweh designated. It wasn't the Jewish rabbi and it wasn't the Catholic Pope who designated Sunday as the replacement day. As a matter of fact, if you look at Leviticus 23, he said in verse 3, for 6 days. Remember, he said, these are my appointed, designated pillars of creation, of pillars of his empire, of his kingdom. For 6 days labor may be done, and the seventh day is a day of complete rest, a kadosh, a mikra kadosh, a holy convocation. You shall not do any work. It is a Sabbath for Yahweh in all your dwelling places. Then he says, these are the appointed festival, the Moedim of Yahweh, and he goes on to talk about Pesach and unleavened bread and the other 7 festivals. But the first one he mentions is the Sabbath day. So this isn't a matter of earning salvation. This is a matter of being as a fit soldier at task, at the location, at the right time that Yahuwah commanded. If we are his betrothed, if we are in his employ, the word worshiper is also servant and slave and worker. It's just doing what he said.
That one verse said he'll lead us in paths of righteousness. The word paths also breaks down to cycles, and exactly what his Moedim are, the cyclical nature of his...
Right, like the cycle of a week, the cycle of a month, the cycle of a year, the cycle of a
Just keeps
Shemitah, the
going
cycle
bigger
of
and
a
bigger and
Yovel,
bigger.
wheel within a wheel. Now, if I know the other prefix letters, like Lamed is one, then I'm going to look up Lamed Ayin Dalet. Lamed Nun, Lamed Samek, and Lamed Ayin's coming up. Lamed Ayin means throat, Lion Ayin Bet, so it's further, Lamed Ayin Gimel, Lamed Ayin Dalet, forever. Because Ayin Dalet has to do with forever. So this means it's forever. So I can now say, even though this says Lamed Ayin Dalet means forever, I'm going to project that into it and say, well, Mem Vav is a prefix, Lamed is a prefix. That means that these witnesses and testimonies that he says that he's appointed and designated for his betrothed repeatedly, forcefully, again and again, are forever and ever. La'ed ed. Because that's how the language is built. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm reading what he built into this language. So I'm going to keep these things with a regard as if they were still intact, still in force, and still with a certain effect if we would just do what he said. Now I'm going to go back and look at Kaf Ayin Dalet. So there's Kaf Ayin Vav, Samik, Kaf Ayin Bet. There's no Kaf Ayin Dalet. That's right. Even though Kaf is a suffix or a prefix letter and a suffix, it's a prefix letter. But sometimes you won't find the word. Now, sometimes you'll find the word in the dictionary here that does not show up in Strong's Concordance and vice versa. But this is basically saying there is no word spelled Kaf Ayin Dalet. So even though a Kaf is a prefix letter that basically means like or as, there is no word that's spelled with that. Okay. But there is one that's Yod Ayin Dalet. So here, page 261, Yod Ayin Dalet. Mission, destination, objective, and target. If we want to be on his mission, aiming at his objective, which when we read in Hosea, he says, I want you to be kings and priests to the world. And actually the word king is melech. And it's like, hey, I'm going to rule and reign. It's like, listen, the word melech means one who is about doing what he said to do, because laka means to you, or halakha is the way you walk. So the word king can be read as the one who takes the counsel of how to just do what he said to do and walk the way he said to walk, which was in truth and kindness and righteousness, doing mishpat, balanced scales of justice. But here, Yod Ayin Dalet also means to appoint. Agreement, to be in covenant with him is Yod Ayin Dalet. Appointed place, appointed time. Summoned, arraigned, invited. You want to be invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb? That's Yod Ayin Dalet. And you better be prepared and you better be ready, or you may not be able to sit at that table like the 5 bridesmaids who didn't get in. They weren't prepared for the appointment. Yod Ayin Vav Dalet. Let's look at that. This is Yod Ayin Dalet. So let's just stick a Vav in here. Yod Ayin Vav Dalet. Fiancé, betrothed woman. Yod Ayin Vav Dalet Hey.
Eric, the battery just jumped down to 5 minutes, so it could
Okay.
cut off at any time.
We have to plug it in. It also means promise and destiny. Yod, Ayin, Vav, Dalet. Okay. Page 159. Hey, Ayin, Dalet, hey. We'll just finish in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Testimony, deposition. Testified. Hey, Ayin, Yod, Dalet. I'm putting the hey prefix in front. Put the Vav prefix in front. Page 191. Vav, Ayin, Dalet. To appoint, meeting, forever, and a convention. And also Vav, Ayin, Vav, Dalet, Vav, Ayin, Yod, Dalet, hey. And then if I just to show you one more, I'm going to now transpose. I'm going to transpose Dalet, Ayin. So if I go here, I'll say goodbye now because it'll click off any second. If I look at Dalet, Ayin, the word is knowledge and wisdom. Page 128. So if I just take, to understand the time is knowledge and wisdom, Dalet, Ayin. Look at the derivatives. Bet, Ayin, Dalet, far away for the sake of. And Ayin, or Aleph, Bet, Ayin, Dalet is Syriac. It says for driving away or sent afar. Our country, our nation, Israel, our forefathers, were sent into the dispersion. We're scattered across the face of the earth because we wouldn't regard the warnings and testifying of the Ayin, Dalets of Yahweh. Have some Dalet, Ayin wisdom and regard what he said. We can turn this thing around. We don't have to be subject to the beast, the Antichrist, and the system.
Hallelujah. You got that in time.